I know you mentioned something. What was it? Black women or black girls as heroes. Did you say something about that?
Well, yeah, that's what my books are about.
Oh, well, that's perfect because I think those two can kind of roll in hand to hand.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people um want to have their own agency and are tired of the white man basically coming in, learning what they know in record setting time, and then saving them with what they taught them, which is basically how the white savior trope works. So yeah.
I'm
All
down
right.
for that. That sounds like a good discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to kick off, and then I'll give you, Thelonious, I'll give you a chance to um, introduce yourself, and then we'll introduce the topic and kind of go from there. We should go. What's the word I'm looking for? And I have to warn you, I'm so not well. But so words are failing me. I couldn't remember
They
what
always
Android
fail
meant.
you, especially in written form.
Say what?
I said they always fail you, especially in written form.
Here's what I'm gonna need you to do. You
Yeah,
have a
y'all,
gas stove, right?
yeah. So y'all crack me up, man.
I'm tortured. Anyway, all right, 3, 2, and welcome to Drunk on Books. This week we are here, and technically speaking, I am drunk on chocolate peanut butter cup ice cream and not alcohol, but that's okay because variety is the spice of life. I'm Lolo.
And I'm Valkyrie, who just got back from happy hour.
Then that explains a lot. And today we have a special guest off that we are off the books with author and Twitter personality and all around smiley face, Thelonious Legend. Say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me drunk on books. Been a fan of yours for a long time. I actually read your book and reviewed it a while ago, so I haven't had a chance to read the other ones, but I'm looking forward to that when I get some time this spring. But again, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Yep. I read your first book. I have the second one. I just haven't had a chance to read it. I went down a smut hole and it's been ugly. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
hard
get
to
back.
it's hard to recover from that. Yeah.
It really is. Like it's like a circle. You got to finish the series, and then it's like, oh, what else they got? And then next thing you know, you're reading about dragons having babies with lionesses, and your
Wait,
world
what?
becomes a very strange place. So
What the fuck?
that was the last book I read. It was really short. It was like 100 pages, but it's about shifters, and apparently all that is required is that you be a shifter. Like you don't have to actually be a shifter in the same species. And it's totally off topic, and I'm going to be very brief about this. So the woman was this Latina lioness, and her mate was a Norwegian dragon.
Say no more, fam. Just let it go.
Okay. So we are going to have, now that we've moved past the weirdness that was mine yesterday, we're going to talk tropes and superheroes in light of the absolute just shambles the timeline was today on the first reviews of a certain Marvel property that has stands that have just lost their shit. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with people. It's literally just a stupid TV show. Like, okay, whatever. But anyway, I say that as a person who just got cussed out for calling Captain America a self-righteous prick. So it is what it is.
I would have dragged your ass for that shit too, though.
After the podcast. So, Thelonious, your book is about a trio. Your first book, or your series is those are the two that you have out now, right? I didn't miss something. Okay, so your books are about a trio of sisters that have special powers that they use for good and not evil. And I don't understand how that functions, but I'm going to let you explain it to us how that works. How does one use one's power for good and not evil?
Well, so I think it. Do I hear echo?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I hear one.
You hear one?
Yeah.
All right. Let me log out and log back in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Turn your camera off. just in case it's a bandwidth thing. Let me get back to the ice cream. I don't know why I stopped eating the ice cream.
Because we talked
Oh,
about weight and health.
Oh no! This ice cream has 320 calories per pint.
I don't give a fuck. That's still
And
not getting to the
5 grams of sugar. So it is perfectly acceptable.
Okay. Whatever you say.
I didn't eat dinner last night. I didn't eat dinner. What is happening? I just dropped some ice cream, but I don't see where it went. I feel it, but it's cold.
See, not eating dinner and eating ice cream.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No, perfect. I don't even hear it anymore.
Yeah, that happens. Sometimes when I have multiple windows open, I gotta just close everything.
And I shut my camera down just in case it's a bandwidth thing on my end, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So I think what happens if you are whatever you are when you get the superpowers, you're just more of that. I know you guys are big football fans. Well, I know one of you is. And Deion Sanders has a great quote. Of course, that Deion Sanders is a great DB for San Francisco, Atlanta, Dallas. He said, "Money doesn't make you bad or whatever. Money just makes you more of whatever you are."
So he was also a self-righteous prick. Okay.
I'm not going to argue with that. Extremely talented though, so he could get away with it. As opposed to somebody that's untalented, you don't have the same a latitude of freedom. So I think that's the same thing with superpowers. If you're like not a very good person before you get superpowers, that's going to be magnified when you get them. And so the girls, they didn't want these powers. They didn't ask for them. And what happens is, as they're trying to discover how to get rid of them so they can lead their normal lives, they recognize like a window of opportunity. Well, while we're trying to get rid of these powers, we could do some good along the way, right? Because we've been blessed with so much. They're upper middle class girls, and what I find is a lot of feedback I get is nobody ever writes books about this segment of the population, right? This demographic, right? Usually if you're black in a book, you're from the hood, you're struggling. It's just all this. Just these really depressed lifestyle. So these girls, and they're Blackish before Blackish came out. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that. So they don't have the same challenges that are usually associated with black tropes on TV or movies or whatever. They have different issues, and not keeping the lights on is not one of them. So it comes recognizing their privilege and how they got these powers and how they're going to use them, how they're going to get rid of them, and how this affects everyone around them is the challenge that they face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
Interesting. Go ahead.
No. I was about to say, I think that's so interesting and it's so important because one of the conversations that I have with some of my friends are about when you read books or when you look at TV and seeing characters that kind of look like you or have some of the same struggles with you, and it does seem sometimes that all you see are characters who have struggled at some point or like you said, keeping the lights on and growing up from the hood. And for some of me and my friends, that's not necessarily the case. And I think that's one of the things that made Blackish such I hate to use the word revolutionary, but for lack of a better word, I'll use it, such a revolutionary show, and why it made it so important and why it resonates, because there are people who live that life, and it's nice to see it in the way that they do tell that story. They tell it without being pretentious or without being kind of stuck up bougie assholes about it. And so I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think Blackish works on a few different levels. For one, the acting is phenomenal, the writing is phenomenal, and they don't take themselves too seriously, right? So I think good writing and good acting fixes a lot of things. I think when you have good acting, good writing, good script, and the timing is there, you get stuff that happens with Blackish. This Is Us is another one that's just phenomenal at this point.
I refuse to watch this show.
Oh my God.
So she's emotional, and so did you hear the pitch that hit? Like, oh my God, like she is not the one crying on TV shows. Yeah,
I don't cry on TV shows.
Let me say this. There's so much drama on TV right now with, especially if you watch like the Shonda Rhimes got Thursday on Lock, as far as It's just drama and this and that. It's nice to have a show where it's a well done show. It's not about killing or assassins or poison or political machinations or whatever. It's just a family show with real day-to-day issues, and it's extremely well done. And so I like the Shonda Rhimes show, and I like the Marvel shows and all this and that. But it's good to have a show that's grounded, right? That deals with death in a responsible manner. That deals with being diverse in a white space in a way that doesn't have to deal with like kung fu or karate or whatever. So the show was well done on a couple different levels, and I think really you should go ahead and bite the bullet and watch it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I mean, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry. You go to
Yeah,
love these
see, you got me
characters,
there. Mm-mm.
and again, something that has to be said about a diverse cast, a diverse show that's coming together, and it just works. I mean, to me, this is the best show on TV right now, bar none. And I'm a Game of
Really?
Thrones guy. I'm a Walking Dead guy. I watch all that. But This Is Us is must see TV.
Yeah, see, I can't deal like all my girlfriends watch it, and like every fucking week is like these bitches are like sent into ice cream and tears and Kleenex, and I don't have time for that. Like,
You know what? It'll be the best cry you'll ever have, right?
no, thank you, I'm good. If I want to cry, I listen to Adele. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yes.
maybe depending on the situation, I might put on Lenny Williams. But past that, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm not all right. I'm gonna go ahead and agree to disagree with you. I think that if there's something that people are saying that is that phenomenal, I would give it a shot. Like I'm not a big horror guy, right? That's not my thing. I'm gonna go see Get Out. I mean, because the reviews are off the chain,
Oh, it's
right?
a good movie.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nope.
I haven't seen it yet.
Nope. 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 Not doing it.
Nobody wants to go to I got a house full of young ladies and my wife. They're not in the horror. They're in the Marvel stuff. They don't do horror. They don't do scary. So I'm gonna go check it out by myself probably.
Yeah.
See, that's a terrible idea. Make sure you go with all. I don't. That was a good. I'm trying to find a word that I can use on the podcast because the one I want to use, I'm just going to get yelled at for.
That's right, you certainly will. Go see it at a theater with a diverse or black audience. It's totally worth it just to hear the commentary.
Still feel like I could have said colored, but okay.
No, ma'am. Okay, see, oh Jesus.
So so it's interesting that you say that because what I find good about the shows that do diverse casts well is they don't try to make, and this is gonna sound really weird, but they don't make black people like air quotes black people. They're people who are black. Like you
And
could
so you know why that is,
theoretically,
right?
that role could be anybody. Like it's not written to be an urban role. It doesn't have to be, it could be anything. Even if it was a drug dealer, you can be a drug dealer and not be a air quotes drug dealer.
Stereotypical. Well, so
You
you
know,
know why that is, right? So,
apparently black people are people.
well, yeah, I've been saying that for years. But usually, when there's a black character in a predominantly white cast, there's so much pressure on the writers to get this black character right because so many black people might be watching that show just for that one character, right? So when you have a diverse cast, you have more than one black person. That means one black person could fail, one black person could succeed, one black person could. I mean, so if you just have one black person on your show and it's a fairly decent show, if something happens to that black person, black people are mad.
That
Like
is very
like
true.
it's the red shirt thing with Walking Dead. Like they could only have one guy on the screen at a time.
Wow.
It's in their contract.
I
And black people love The Walking Dead. We just want, you know, we just want some black characters that could actually kill some zombies and not die.
Wait, isn't that what they give you Michelle for?
Michonne, right? So Michonne came along in the last couple of seasons, but
Oh,
at first the black guys was wearing the red Star Trek shirt.
are you serious? So they
I
knew,
mean, I
y'all
mean
knew he
they,
was
they
gonna
would
die.
have one black guy on Walking Dead at a time, and then he would die, and then they would bring another one. It's like they couldn't be on screen at the same time.
I'm still not over T Dog, honestly.
Yeah. So we
I'm
got a
sorry,
Walking Dead
what?
fan here.
T-Dog.
Yeah. So here's the thing, with my book, there's basically three sisters, and they're all flawed, but they're all not tragically flawed. If I would have just had like one sister, just one black character, and if she would have been flawed, and then it magnifies her flaws, right? Because people are reading the book and she's like, there's only one sister in there, and she got these issues. But if it's a family of black people and there's three sisters and there's a mother and a father and they got like black friends, oh shoot, hold up, then they could be then you could have those flaws and it's not normal, or it's normal rather, excuse me.
You okay?
I think he went to cut it off.
Or to answer. I think he muted. Oh yeah, he muted to answer.
Yeah.
Who answers the phone in the middle of a podcast? It's a good thing we aren't live.
I don't think
what's the name? So there's The Walking Dead. What's the one that comes on?
I'm sorry about that, guys. You know how it is when you got a family and daughter.
No. Nope.
But yeah, so if you watch The Walking Dead, I mean, that's a general theme. It's almost like a running joke.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like they literally at one point they could not keep a black person, like a black man specifically, on that fucking show. I mean, and we went through so many. We went through T-Dog, and then we went through, oh God, what's the punk one who couldn't kill anybody? We went through him, which was Sasha's brother, and then we went through, I know all of their real names, or names that I called him, Tyler, and then you went through whatever the bad one was that had that Tyler Perry cornrow wig on.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you don't have a diverse writing room, you don't even see these as, you're just seeing this as you're cleaning off a character. If you're a writing room, if there's like one or two black people in the writing room, and you'll be like, this is like the third black dude we done killed off, And
I did not notice that though.
Oh my God. It was a running joke.
Like, it
was a running joke that wasn't funny.
Well, I was gonna say, how do you not notice that? If you have 5 characters that are on the show every week, but one rotating one, he happens to be the colored one, like you'd have to know. And I don't mean that as in colored as in black. I mean as in a person of color. Like you rotate through people of color, but you got the same 5 characters and they have no color of any kind. Like that has to be obvious. Even to people who aren't that smart, that has to be obvious.
Well, I mean, so I think if you're in a writing room and you come with your own agency, you're writing from your POV.
That's true.
So you don't see it as an issue unless it's brought to your attention. And then if they're not central to the plot, they're like, I know what you guys are crying about. They're not even central to the plot. And then black people are like, that's our point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think that's some of the problems that's coming on with Irish Fist that's going on right now on the timeline. I have just seen, we had a brief conversation, or we mentioned it before we even started. People have just been dragged. I mean, and it's because the first reviews for the show, for the new show Iron Fist on Netflix, have hit the street. And people are basically saying it's shit. It's a trashy TV show. They completely messed up. And people have just been dragging this show left and right. And then you have the fanboys hopping in folks' mentions and saying all kinds of crazy shit. And then they get dragged. And it just turns into one big Twitter riot. Sometimes like streets are dangerous in the Twitter street sometimes. But I think it's because some of the problems that people were trying to tell them with this show, or tell people, or try to explain why the main character should have been an Asian person or an Asian man, they're not thinking about it that kind of way. They're thinking about it from their point of view. So you get these kind of things that pop up now where it's supposedly this happens in the show. The white boy goes into the dojo and tries to explain this kung fu to the Asian woman who owns the dojo and who is a master in martial arts.
That's part of the show? Seriously?
Yeah, that was in there.
That's in there.
Oh, that's terrible. So even she could be a chocolate bunny. If she owns the dojo, you can't explain shit to her. Like that's exactly.
And it wasn't done tongue in cheek from reading the review. And
right.
I will say this. I wrote a blog last week. I put on Black Girl Nerds, titled "Black People Harry Potter, Won't Save You."
I got that in an email.
You got that in an email?
Yeah. Like, I guess you put it on your blog too?
Yeah, everything I post there, I put it on my blog. I'll post it there, hers first, and then I'll put it on mine just to keep it, because she has so many writers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I sent that to anybody. But I had Harry Potter stands like, dude, seriously? How do you not like Harry Potter? And I was like, that's not what the blog's about, right?
And you didn't even, at no point did you even specified, I actually like Harry Potter.
Yeah, I like it, and I do like Harry Potter. My thing is,
but you actually said that in the article.
Yeah, you didn't see my mentions. Cass was coming. And I was like, I don't do Twitter beefs. That's not my thing. I ain't got enough time. I say my 2 cents and keep it moving, but don't keep coming at me. I just, I don't get down like that. So I know you don't like the article. Thank you for your commentary. Keep it moving. I don't understand the loyalty to J.K. Rowling and this character. They're good books, but nobody's above criticism.
But here's the thing. Yeah. So books and TV shows and all this other stuff, if we all understand that folks write to their, agency or whatever,
mm-hmm.
She wrote a cast. She wrote a book. Could she have had more people of color in there? Maybe. Could she have written them correctly? Maybe. But if you want there to be Black people in the books you read, then you probably need to find Black authors. Reading a white British woman's book and then expecting her to change her mindset to include this broader range of people and or things is ridiculous. That's not how the creative process works. I mean, so in TV shows, or if y'all are watching I don't understand why you all would continue watching The Walking Dead if you know how they treat Black characters.
Because it's good. Yeah.
But then don't complain about it.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
I mean, watch a different show that has Black people in it.
So no matter what I watch, I'm gonna complain because that's just what I do. But if it gets to the point where, because I don't really have a lot of bandwidth to watch a lot of bad shows, and despite Walking Dead's flaws, it's a pretty good show. And now they got Michonne on there now, and she's killing the game. So. I only get a chance to watch a few shows, and so there's a couple shows that I had in the rotation that didn't hit my mark, whether it was for diversity, whether it was for writing, whether it was for storyline or plot, and I don't talk about them shows. I usually talk about the shows that I like, right? And I'll drag Walking Dead, but I'll watch it again on Sunday.
Wow.
So it's a show you love to hate. I mean, I've read all the Game of Thrones books, right? And I'll still criticize it. And I still think for the most part the books were great. A couple of them were better than the others. I think the show's one of my favorite shows. But I still think there's areas for improvement that they could work on, and I critique those areas, right? That I think, that's my right. Now, if that's all I do is talk negative about whether it's the Walking Dead games or this, and I'll talk about the other positive aspects of it, then that's the issue, right? If you're just talking negative and you're not putting anything positive out there, or you're not giving alternatives, then I think that's the issue. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about The Walking Dead, and I'm gonna watch it next week. Game of Thrones, when that come on, I'm gonna talk about that, and I'm gonna watch it next week. So.
I like.
From watching this, is doing something right.
I like to think of it as constructive criticism.
There you go, constructive criticism.
Some of it, but in some shows, like I found myself hate watching. I gave up, like Arrow. I was watching Arrow; it was great, and then at one point, I just found myself literally dragging the show. Like every tweet, there was nothing positive. I was just dragging it, and so. I finally gave it up, and it was like releasing a fuckboy out of my life. I felt 10 times better.
Yeah, I tapped out on Arrow. I tapped out on Gotham. I don't even like them. I dislike them, but I don't have the energy to even tweet hate them or whatever. I just don't comment on them. I don't watch them. They were bad when I stopped watching them, and I don't give them any more of my energy.
Yeah, which kind of sad, like, and this is why, like, talking about, I keep calling it Irish Fist because somebody on the timeline, I think it was Chanel, called it that, and now it's stuck in my head. Um, Kind of sad about it because there are some good characters there, like Colleen. You could tell she's a good character, and that's going to be interesting. And then there's Rosario Dawson's character as a night nurse, who I just love Rosario Dawson. I've always have. I think she's brilliant. She's amazing, and she's slowly picking up on her activist stuff and really getting out there. So I really like her. So I was gonna watch for that, but just seeing some of the reviews that's coming on is like, do I even want to do that? Like, do I even want to put myself through that? I mean, I still don't understand why they made that when you have Rosario Dawson, who has been successful through several shows. Why not just give her own show that people can watch? But still,
Give her own show doing what?
her as night nurse, her as a character, as a essentially big help to some of these defenders on these streets. She be helping folks.
Yeah, I don't think that makes a whole show.
You
That's
never,
why.
you never know. They could have fixed some shit. I mean, excellent writing. Isn't that
Yeah,
what we started this with?
yeah, I think they've proven that they don't have that particular skill. So, to be honest, I've never made it through an entire season of any of those shows.
Okay.
And that's just me. And I will cop to not being a comic book person. I don't know anything about their backstories, the different arcs, and all that other nonsense. And so all I know from it is what I saw on the show. So what, you and I sat down when Luke Cage came out and we watched what, 5 or 6 episodes?
No, it wasn't even that. It was like two. You were drunk. It seemed
No.
like 5 or 6, but it was like two.
Really? No. You know
It's
what?
okay.
We watched until the sex scene. It was what is less than mediocre. And then I got mad and Roberta and I started doing other stuff. So yeah, I mean that may have been true, but
Now, the best thing about Luke Cage was Cottonmouth.
Oh, Cottonmouth was so. He was so good.
no,
His character was so good.
which one was Cottonmouth?
That's Mahershala's character.
Okay, gotcha. The squinty one. Okay,
What?
he squinted. The whole show drove me nuts.
Jesus.
he affected because I thought that was just how his face was, and then seeing him in Moonlight, he doesn't do that. So it was an affectation for that role.
I never noticed that.
I never noticed it either.
Oh my god, I couldn't help but notice it. I don't know.
Now,
Go ahead.
no. But I was saying Cottonmouth he was so well written, and the visual. I mean, hands down, one of the best scenes, excellent cinematography, was after he beat somebody's ass, and he stood up with the Biggie poster in the background, and his laugh, and the way he laughed. Oh, I liked it so much.
That was
Yeah,
dope scene. That
yeah,
was a
that
dope
was a
scene. I
dope.
know what
That
you're
was
talking about. Yeah,
that,
that was a dope scene. I thought he was the best thing in the show. I thought it lost energy after he was no longer there.
well, I liked Misty. I really
Oh my!
liked.
So she was the second best thing, and I thought that scene where he was getting released from holding, and they were in each other's face. There was so much charisma with Misty Knight and
Mhm.
Catmouth in that one scene. I almost burnt my TV up.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, because he was like calling their names, and it was like cool. It was that passive aggressive talk where they was talking in circles about what they wanted to do and do to each other, this and that. But I was a dope scene. I was probably out of the entire series. I was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, I liked Luke Cage. It had that kind of old black cinema noir feel to it, and I liked it. Black exploitation films, that's what it is,
Right.
from back in the day, and I liked it. And so I think that's what kind of disappoints going on. You had this high, and then completely dropped down to what the fuck is this for um, for Irish Fist, and I think it goes back to me also wanting to see more women of color in lead positions. So I think, out of all of their franchises, right, or out of all of their shows right now, Luke Cage had the most because you had Black Mariah, you had Misty, you had Eva Riva, and you had um, Night Nurse, you had Rosario Claire. Um, And that's why I like reading books that have more women of color in lead positions and watching TV shows that have women of color, because I think it's important to get that out there. And so when people resort back to these old tropes of white savior complex, it completely pisses me off, because it's 2017. We should be past that. You know what I'm saying? It's time to open up the eyes and open up the box. There's more there. Get to some of the other things. See the other people who have been here for forever and left in the background. And so that's my kind of thinking on it. And that's why I enjoy more books. That's why I loved L.A. Banks's books from the very beginning, because every single one of her books has a diverse cast and a woman of color in the lead. So that's just my two cents on the whole situation.
I think I have alternate theories on most of the folks y'all just said, but that's because I'm a contrarian, and I have I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, so this was beautiful about, Black people, they're not a monolithic group, right? We don't all have to agree on everything.
I beg your pardon. I read Twitter. If I don't agree, I'm going to lose my black card.
No, you can't. Can't nobody take your black card away.
I don't know what timeline you've looking at, what Twitter you look at, but
I did threaten to take your shit because you hate cocoa butter, but that's
because it smells. I don't like the way it smells.
I grew up with sisters. I would agree with that.
What? Which part?
The it smells part.
Yeah, I don't like the way it smells. I would prefer scentless. I think if you take the scent away, that kind of reduces the cocoa butterness of it all. So yeah, I don't know. Plus, my skin, if I put that stuff anywhere near my skin, I'll have zits. It's not pretty. I digress. But yeah, that was something that I don't like about the online thing. Like, I'm with you. If I come after somebody on Twitter, they have earned it like tenfold. Because by the time I get ready to get my Twitter fingers going, it's gonna be. They've gotten on my last good nerve, and I haven't been able to figure out a way of getting it out of my head, right? So it's only a couple times that it's ever happened, and it's never been a long back and forth. I'm not gonna spend all day cussing folks out online because they're stupid, and if you can't say it to my face, then it's clearly not worth my conversation. So, and if you don't know me well enough to say it to my face, then clearly your opinion doesn't mean shit. So, but they are. I feel like people need to understand. So there's two things to the Iron Fist conversation, and I say that as a person who understands the history of comic books, but also I don't know nothing about the damn story. But it would appear to me that he was written as a white character because at the time, that is what would have sold. So like. You have to cater to the people you have out. So now you could write a character like Iron Fist, and he could be of any ethnic, racial makeup that you can dream of. I mean, he could be literally anything at this point, right? But that wasn't always the case.
He was written as white because there was white writers. He came in the 70s.
Yeah, and in the 70s, I'm not sure how many Asian.
With a lot of black Marvel writers at Marvel. So
right.
Thing. If you have black, Asian,
are you? Hold on. Pause for a second. You have stepped away from your microphone?
Oh, can you guys not hear me? Let me turn this up.
Okay. It just sounds like you walked away from your computer or something.
Oh, I had to put on my headphones. I gotta go pick up my daughter from dance. So I'm in my car. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, that's what you want to have. It matters who's in the writing room.
Right.
Otherwise, you won't get all these white tropes if you have a more diverse, a more balanced, writing room. And so if you have white guys in the writing room, you're going to have white savior tropes. I mean, I don't know how better to explain it than that.
Right. But I mean, like I said, I think so yes, he was always written that way, but times have changed. And so the character could evolve into something that's amenable to 2017, where we don't necessarily, I don't think we ever necessarily needed saviors, but the savior doesn't have to fit some mainstream thing in order to be popular. And that, for a long time, comic books were a luxury that not everybody could afford. And people who had that kind of those extra coins weren't always minorities.
Well, so times
Mhm.
have changed, but the power structure really hasn't.
Right.
Like the CEOs of who owns Marvel, DC, Disney. I mean, there's still not a lot of diversity there. So that's why you've been seeing a movement, kind of for us, by us, which social media has been at the forefront of. You'll see, and Black women uh, have been trendsetters in this area, whether it's, holding each other up, pushing each other's work, supporting each other. And so I think if I could pick out one demographic that has kind of taken that mantra and be like, we're going to make stuff for our own, by our own, you know, um, who's that? Who's Beyonce's sister? What's her name? Solange. This,
Mhm.
this, it's just for us. Her song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you look at some of the women of color that are doing things in multimedia right now, whether it's Beyonce, whether it's Shonda Rhimes, whether it's Ava DuVernay, whether it's Gina Bythewood, who's directing Cloak and Dagger, coming out on Freedom here next month. I don't really see another segment of the populace making moves like women of color, and I think there's a couple reasons behind that. But for one, I think they recognize that you can't expect people in power to cede that power. If you want something, you got to take it, you got to make it, and once you get it, you can't let it go.
Sure.
So, I mean, times have changed, but you know, the power structure hasn't. And so that's why you're a writer, I'm a writer. We recognize that there's a vacuum of not only diverse characters, but real diverse characters, not tropes, right? So I I think another character with Irish Fist or whatever you want to call him, he might do better, he might not. That depends on who's writing. If he was Irish, um, whatever, I you're gonna have pretty much what you get. But if he was Asian, I think that's a more nuanced, more layered, if done right, right? If you actually got Asian writers in the room and they could bring something of their culture and you could tether that character to a real culture, whether it's Korean and Taekwondo, whether it's Chinese and Kung Fu, whether it's Filipino and stick fighting. I mean, they all
Mhm.
have their different martial arts, and once you do your research on these characters, you got to bring some of that into the writing room with you, and that's how you make that character relatable and three dimensional. I don't think you get that with a monolithic writing room.
Yeah, and as best I understand it, there even so, if you take away the dissatisfaction with the casting, the overall show is bad. Like it's got bad writing, it's got bad um acting, it's got bad fight I mean, so if you do nothing else good, you should have the dopest fight scenes ever. That's what that brand is, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I can't. I didn't love Luke Cage like the rest of the universe, but the fight scenes were dope. I can't not give him that. You know, him walking through in the hoodie with the bullet holes. Okay, yeah, I can give you that. Or Daredevil fighting the guys in the hallway in the one of the first episodes,
Mhm. When he went to
and
his literally the first episode.
he's bouncing off walls and people are flying and he's disassembling guns in midair. Like you have to have the dopest fight scenes ever because that's your brand. That's what you're known for. You don't have to tell a good story. It's a comic book. Who cares? But it should look
And I
good.
think and I think they're also running up against what's my show, Into the Badlands on AMC, which has hands down the most nuanced choreographed fight scenes I have ever seen in my entire life.
They
I
got
think
real martial artists in the shows.
right. And I think they said it takes them a ridiculous amount of time, like at least 5 days or so just to fight each fight scene. And they're going against that show, which completely different premise, but it's a show done with an Asian lead.
It's a diverse cast, diverse writing room. And let me say this: anybody who follows me on Twitter, who reads my blog, who read my books, know I'm a stickler for fight scenes.
Hmm.
I mean that's like my thing. I've wrestled, I boxed, I did karate for like years, and if I can't get nothing else in my book, right, I'm gonna get the fight scenes right,
Hmm.
right. And being a book nerd in a neighborhood that wasn't fond of book nerds, have a lot of experience getting punched in the face. So if
Oh
I can't
no.
if I can't do nothing else, I'm gonna get the fight scene right. And when I see cats that don't do their homework, that got lazy fight scenes, that I mean, I'm just like, come on, dog. I mean, really. If you doing like a martial arts joint, or you doing stuff that's going to be, if the fight is going to be your focal point, do your research, bro. Call me. I'll help you out.
So there is no shortage of people who could give you. I mean, there's a little boy down the street from me who's a green belt. I'm not sure where that sits in the spectrum, but I see him practicing in his front yard, his kicks and stuff, because apparently he kicked one of mom's lamps, and that was the end of karate in the house. So I see him out there in his stance and his kicks, and his toes are pointed and his hands are bunched up, and I mean, it's just the most adorable thing ever. But he practices.
And so here's another pet peeve for me. I hate it when these pictures, and this is usually the white trope thing, the white savior, but not always, where the hero, the unassuming hero, find out that he's destined for greatness and spends like 30 days or 6 months or whatever learning how to fight, and is like the baddest dude on the planet. That's not how it works. You cannot find anybody, I don't care who you are, that has never boxed before. You could train for 6 months and they could beat Mike Tyson.
No,
you can't do it.
It's never gonna happen. Yeah.
No, and so Lori knows. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I say Lori knows from reading my book. I gave my characters like a fight background, right? As they've been doing this for years, and so when they get these powers, you're like, okay, it's not a complete leap of faith, right? I mean, you're already suspending disbelief because these are black girls with superpowers. But when they get into the fight scenes, you be like, okay, right, I see how they can do that because, they've been doing this for years, right? And so when I see these, whether they find like a magic amulet, and also they become, there's so many hours you have to spend in the boxing ring just to get muscle memory, just to get to the point when something happens, you respond without thinking, because if you're thinking, you're dead. And like, my boxing coach, me, man, when you hear the bell, you got like 3 more punches at least. You punch through the bell. And so there's so many things that are going to fighting as far as footwork and angles, and there's a difference between speed and timing. And watching these fight scenes, man, I'm just like, somebody hire me.
I was gonna say, you know what? If I'm writing a fight scene, I try to find something similar. I will base writing fight scenes on a scene I've seen in a movie or in a TV show, because I want to be able to describe it properly. I don't want to just make it up. It doesn't work if you just make it up, because it's not going to sound real. I mean, yes, you may be out there kickboxing with aliens, but your feet still have to move a certain way, and your hands have to move a certain way.
It should be a dance. It should be a dance. It should be a give and take.
It's amazing to me that they, and I remember the day that it was, I don't know who, if he said he didn't practice, he didn't train or whatever it was, but the guy who plays Irish Fist, Jesus, now I'm gonna say it.
We know who you're talking about.
Said he didn't feel he needed to train, and so they had to film around that. And I'm like,
are you serious?
Yeah.
This is the role of your life.
Like, the timeline went just apoplectic. It was hilarious. And I'm like, okay, so, and this is after me, because I'm gonna tell you what, Louis Tan is gorgeous.
Like, listen.
Like, Risk It All, gorgeous. Like,
I think those are the funniest memes about to Risk It All.
I mean, one of those, yes, I know I'm almost 40 and I will still bear 15 of your children. I don't care if I'm giving birth and going through menopause at the same time. Gorgeous. Okay, and he has these videos on Instagram, which I don't know who told me to look him up there, but bless you and your future generations. Because he has these scenes of him practicing with the sword and with the stick. Oh my God!
He's a bad boy. Now I want to speak to his aesthetic looks, but he's a bad dude with that.
But when you add the two together, we risking 401ks and stuff. Like, it's just.
So y'all about to risk it all. Those are the funniest.
All of it.
It's one of those where the credit report could just be completely jacked up, and it's fine. It's fine.
So we good. He got 7 years to get that off.
Right.
I mean, Well, you need a car? You can have a car. I don't need a car. We good.
This bus
Yeah.
card works just fine. Thank you.
And for me, it's a good mile and a half to the nearest bus stop. But on a good day,
Yeah, and so what? You know
you
what?
exercise anyway.
And something else about these white tropes, these whites, everything. There wasn't a lot of options back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you had 3 channels on TV, and you could go see a movie at the movie theater. There wasn't no Netflix, wasn't no Amazon, wasn't no Hulu,
Still nothing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying if you get a chance to like watch a Tarzan show, or rewatch something with Denzel or Blade or whatever, then you're not gonna watch the white guy saving the black people, more than likely.
No, I'm gonna watch
day,
it
that was back in the day, that was the only thing that was on.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing white dudes crash their head, be like, wow, this isn't working. I'm like, no, it's not working, dog. It's there's more options, right?
But they have such short memories.
Right.
They will see. So whoever decided Great Wall, that movie, which I think probably isn't that bad of a movie, but the way they marketed it in the US was just tragic, right? But we knew that was what was going to happen. It has happened. You can't have, you shouldn't have British men playing Egyptians. I think we learned that. It took several movies and several hundreds of millions of dollars for them to keep doing that. I mean,
you're talking about Gods of Egypt?
Gods of Egypt. There was 2 of them. It was Gods of Egypt, and what was the other one?
I know you're talking about. So here's the thing: back when Yul Brynner did it, they was breaking records because, like I said, there was only 3 channels on. It was epic, and what else was you gonna do?
I mean, so at that point, the segregation laws meant that you couldn't necessarily have them in certain places. I can't film in a certain place and bring your, brown behind with me.
Right.
But now that was 75 years ago. I mean, it's 2017. We aren't talking about, Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra, in 1965. We're talking about Scarlett Johansson playing a half Asian woman, or Emma Stone playing a half Hawaiian girl.
Well, see, the people of color, what my grandma used to say, is uppity. They have to put up with that mess no more. You know what I mean? And at the box office, they don't. Right?
No. And the thing is, you don't, and as much as nobody wants to admit it, if Black people don't want to see it, no one's going to see it.
Pretty much. So
you can call it what you want, except for movies like La La Land,
Here's the thing, though. There's still a sense of entitlement, and because Matt Damon can fail over and over again. He can. I mean, he could have another box office flop, and he'll greenlight a movie faster than Don Cheadle.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just the way Hollywood works. That's Hollywood math, right?
Yes.
So it's something to be having. I mean, there's something to be said to having the luxury to fail. I mean, because if you got the luxury to fail, you're not afraid to take chances, right? Because you got more than one shot. You look at Black actors, Black directors, Black writers. A lot of cats only get one shot.
That is very true.
The only people that get multiple shots is Black comedians.
And then some of them, they need to just go ahead and let them go.
Yeah,
just let it go.
Black comedian, they'll be like, well, let's try it again. Wear the dress this time, But
and seriously, the next one that does that, I don't say we boycott. I think we should take to the streets with a tar and the bag of feathers, and that's how it needs to go down. If I see Kevin Hart in a dress and a wig and prosthetic boobs, I'm taking it to the streets. Like, that's just
Black comedians get a chance to fail over and over. There's only
Will Smith.
Yeah, and Will Smith.
Will Smith is batting 1 out of 5 these days. One film out of every 5 that he has done, of the previous 5, have done at least broken even.
Yeah, but for like 5 years, Will Smith has had a track record that was unparalleled.
Oh, that is true.
He had the Midas touch. I think what happens is, I think a lot of people misjudge or miscalculate, what made them such a success in the first place. Because I'm not denying Will Smith's talent. That the brother can act. He got charisma for days and this and that. But you can't keep playing the same guy over and over again.
Yeah, but I don't. That's the problem with, I think, actors of color, and when you don't have writers of color,
Yeah,
you don't know how to write any other way.
You're
We
right.
always have to be I'm not saying that he's a buffoon in his movies, but that's what they think we are.
Right.
We're either thugs or buffoons, and he can't be a thug necessarily. I mean, his character in Bad Boys was as thuggish as it got, and he played a rich kid. But he played a trust fund baby who carried a gun in Miami basically because he needed something to do.
No, did you see his the zombie joint he was in?
He was in a zombie joint? Oh, I Am Legend.
No, to me that was some of his best acting. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I mean, I think he kind of had no choice at that point because he was the only person on the screen for an hour and some change.
But I thought I was like, now I'm not saying it was Oscar worthy, but when he was like tripping off of Fred not being in the store no more.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, dog. This cat's about to lose it.
Yeah. But I will say, like, he has his highs and his lows, and I think he's slowly turning it around.
Like everybody. I mean, everybody should be allowed to fail a couple times and not fail in traditional sense, but just not do as good as you expect or the audience expects or box office expects, and readjust and recalibrate. A lot of people of color don't get those options.
Yeah, I think he actually did pretty okay as Deadshot in Suicide Squad. I was okay with it. I was impressed, actually.
But he was back.
Was a mess.
You know
you have to call it Oscar award-winning Suicide Squad.
You know what? Other than Enchantress, who I thought was a knockoff of Akasha from
Queen of the Damned.
That's the one. Now that is a role they totally did the wrong thing for, because she looked like Rebe Jackson from Centipede trying to dance. But it was just awful.
She did.
But the rest, tell me, you about to say something positive about Suicide Squad. What was it about? I believe it was about them trying to clean up the city without actually sending in people they cared about to get killed.
It was a rescue mission. They did all that to rescue. So it wasn't about cleaning up the city. And the thing is, if you don't,
but you had to kill everybody to get to it. I mean, that's
Here's my thing for these big box office joints. Don't overthink it. They should have rewrote that as a western, right? Like a modern day western. You know what I'm saying? It's basically the Magnificent Seven with superpowers, right? And I don't know if you got to get more complicated than that. And the fact that I saw that movie and I'm still not quite sure what the plot was, says that they missed the mark. And they had a lot of charisma on screen. Will killed it. A couple other guys was nice.
If they had just Will Smith and Margot
Robbie.
That's the one, because I kept want to say Kidder, and that's the wrong. She was
really good in that role.
She was. And then Diablo. If you had just those three, you didn't need Killer Croc, you didn't need the little Indian dude who died 5 minutes after walking on the screen.
Native American.
What you said. They didn't need the Australian guy. They were completely
irrelevant.
They were tertiary.
They had nothing to do with the plot. You could have had a lot more character development, or at least had more story going on if you didn't have to have 7 people talking all the damn time.
So here's the thing. So I hear what you're saying, but to me, you got to figure out what type of movie it is. Is it a plot-driven movie, or is it just a popcorn, bang 'em up shoot a movie? And you can't have both. You can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't, because what happens is Avengers. Here's what Marvel is so good. They know what type of movies the Avengers are, right? They got it down to a science. DC is trying to figure it out. They don't know, so they're trying to throw a bunch of stuff to the wall and see what sticks. And to me, Suicide was the type of movie, like, they had a lot of good stuff there, and they threw it together. They're gonna see, they're just gonna see what sticks.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna try. So I'm just gonna talk to the fact that Tech is playing Wake Forest in the ACC tournament right now. So yeah. If my sentences wane at some point, it's because I'm multitasking. Anyway, yeah. So, like I said, I think in the begin, if they had pared down the cast and tightened up the focus, there was just too. You didn't realize what they were trying to do until you were 3/4 of the way through the movie. So basically, I mean, everyone loved Viola Davis's role there, but did you?
She was needed because she's kind of the leader, but they kind of let her more on the outskirts of anything.
Yeah, she either needed to be more hands-on or show up at the beginning, in the middle, and then the end. Like, she didn't need to have. They just had too much going on. So when you talk about focus, or because at that point you have no savior. There aren't any, I guess, good guys necessarily. I mean, I personally would have been like, you just gonna have to shoot me. I'm not going back to jail after what I just went through. I'm not going for 10 years. Oh, you can bite me. I'm going back to my cell. I'll holler at you later.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a wrap, man. I mean, I'm good. I'm good.
You know how many tricks through the streets fighting?
I'm like, it's Tuesday. It's Jello Day. I ain't going nowhere.
They bringing chocolate pudding at 4:00. I see you when I see you. We're not doing this today. Yeah, and the Joker was completely pointless.
Yeah, he was.
All he needed to be was a flashback. He had no reason to be in that movie until the very end. Now, when he came in to break Harley out of the jail as a setup to the next movie, I assume, I can totally see how that would have happened.
That would have been a bridge to the next movie. That would have been a great bridge to the next movie. But I mean, you try to do. See, DC doesn't know who it is, what it is, or I mean, they're trying to compete with Marvel, and instead of hiring storytellers to tell their stories,
diverse ones at that.
Well, like Black Panther has Ryan Coogler doing the Black Panther, right?
Right.
Wait, is that DC or Marvel?
That's Marvel.
That's okay. Marvel. But see, I mean, Marvel hires storytellers, right? DC hires cinematographers. They got Zack Snyder doing, and Zack Snyder, I mean, he has his pluses, but he's not a storyteller. He isn't.
What is he?
I think he's a cinematographer.
Okay.
I mean,
he does make, because as bad as Superman versus Batman was, it was pretty.
I mean, you look at the one movie he did, the Punch Drunk thing or whatever.
Sucker Punch,
right? Yeah. Yeah.
I was like Punch Drunk Love.
No, you didn't either. But I'm saying, I mean, and that's as much storytelling as you're gonna get from him. But you don't watch
Steven Spielberg is what you're trying to say. He's never gonna have a Cocoon.
He hasn't yet.
But he gets a chance to try. Like if he doesn't knock it out of the park, I'm gonna need you to sit down somewhere.
Well, I mean, how many chances does he get at bat? I mean, come on, man.
Third time to charm or sit down. He's had more than 3.
I mean, Superman put me to sleep.
Which Superman?
The one Zack Snyder did. Superman. He did Batman versus Superman, and now he's doing
he's not doing Aquaman.
Oh, I hope not. No. Oh God, I hope not.
No.
Yeah, but here's the thing: we're all gonna end up going to see Aquaman because of Aquaman. Like my 19-month-old nephew could direct that movie, and I'd still go see it.
Yeah, now this is a chance. They got a chance to get this one right.
They don't have to get it right. Here's the thing: when you try to get stuff right, you fuck it up. Don't try to get stuff right.
I think if you try to do too much, I think if you do Aquaman as an origin story, as far as the beef with him and trying to take the throne from his half brother or whatever, I don't think you need to do more than that. Make it a family drama.
So long as Aquaman takes his shirt off, I don't give a shit if he's out there chasing leprechauns with a shillelagh stick.
Okay, well you could go with that angle too. I mean, you know,
if he is there some? But this thing, but
I mean, this for an hour and a half. It needs to be more than an underwear ad.
Bullshit. I mean, yeah. I'm sure there'll be pretty graphics. Pacific Rim was not a good movie. Charlie Hunnam is a horrible actor.
I thought Pacific Rim was good.
I liked Pacific Rim.
I love that. Oh, no. I like the CGI. I like the big monsters. The dude inside the monster, inside the robot, was fucking awful. Charlie was a horrible actor.
Really? I thought he was okay.
He was
God.
He was bad in that movie. I mean,
I don't remember him sucking, and I'm usually pretty good at remembering him.
Awful. I have seen that movie so many times.
I don't recall anybody doing an Oscar-worthy performance, but he was typical performance for a B action movie.
I mean, but I really liked him in Sons of Anarchy. I think he was okay. If you saw Crimson Peak, he was okay in that one. And I think
saw that.
And he was not good in it.
Yeah, Crimson Peak was pretty good. And then I think him coming up in these next set of King Arthur movies will probably be pretty good. I mean, he has a pretty good cast around him. So
I don't think I'm still stuck on. I don't think he's that bad of an actor.
He has his niche. He has his niche.
So I think
so long as he doesn't do Shakespeare.
He played himself in Sons of Anarchy. I think a lot of Jax Teller was him.
I don't know about that. Well,
I also think that in the Arthur movies, just judging from the trailers, I think there's a lot of Jax Teller in his, because it's a Guy Ritchie film, it's not Shakespeare. So,
Guy Ritchie, when Guy Ritchie's on his game, he's good.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because Snatch is probably one of the best movies ever done. I love that movie.
I do too.
Okay.
You don't like Snatch?
Oh, I love Snatch. I don't know if it's the best. I mean, so to me, I'm a fan of Guy Ritchie. When Guy Ritchie's on his game, nobody does that kind of hyper violent, funny,
exactly.
Than him. You know,
yes.
I mean, his movies aren't violent. There's like hyper violence. I'm like, oh my God. And then you're laughing like 30 seconds later.
Yeah, but it's not like it's violent, but it's not like what's that big-headed one that did Pulp Fiction?
Tarantino.
He's not Tarantino violent.
Oh no. So that's cartoonish violence. I mean, that's not even real violence. That's Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote violence. I mean, that's
okay, so maybe he's not Robert Rodriguez violent.
No. Right. But at the end of the day. So
there's a gravitas. There's a gravitas and a realism to his violence that I wouldn't equate with Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino, man, is like we need more blood.
There's not enough brain matter on the walls here. Let's shoot somebody else in that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I had to choose a writer that I wanted to emulate in my career as a novelist, short stories, writing TV and movies, I want to be Guillermo del Toro.
He's good.
He is amazing. And he is amazing at everything. Like, I watched Troll Hunter. Now, granted, it took me a little while to watch Troll Hunters because I was trying to work and watch Troll Hunters at the same time. But he doesn't hit it. For it to be a cartoon show, and it's a Netflix show, it's so good. Like, it was good in a way of like, I have to watch the next episode to find out what happened. It never happens with cartoons. I could care less.
You know who I like?
Shows I watch all the way through are very few.
You know who I like, who I wouldn't if I could emulate the career as far as from a filmmaker writer standpoint, is Rick Fumaga, who did Brown Sugar, The Wood, Dope. He did another classic. I mean,
This Christmas.
Did he do This Christmas?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I mean, he has just a earthiness, a writing, and he gets Black culture, he gets geek culture. What he did in Dope was dope.
Yeah.
You know what he did in Brown Sugar. I mean, what he did in The Wood with Omar Epps. I mean, if I could emulate a screenwriter, that would be him. As far as a novelist, you guys know I'm a big fan of Toni Morrison. I don't think anybody does more than words than she does. And Paul Beatty, who's another brother that I don't think gets a lot of play. I mean, his prose is so muscular and compact and dense. He puts more words in a paragraph than I do on a page. I mean, this cat. I mean,
I like Toni Morrison, but I shouldn't have to read your book 4 times to understand what's going on. And I'm a fairly smart person, and I read a lot of books. But there isn't a book that she has written, except that very last one, about love and something else. I can't remember what it's called.
mm-hmm.
But it was a shorter one of the shorter ones. I will never forget this. In college, I had to write a paper on Beloved. And I read that book. I know I read that book 4 times.
So Beloved isn't her best work. I think if you want to get the true essence of Toni Morrison, I think you got to read The Bluest Eye. That's my favorite.
I've read all of her books.
So,
and all of them I've read at least twice.
So what do you think of The Bluest Eye? That's my favorite.
I liked it. I have no issue with it. It's just so there's imagery and then and metaphors, and then you've left people completely confused. Because if you don't lay the groundwork right, so I think The Bluest Eye did it best. I mean, I liked Sula.
Sula was probably my second favorite.
And that one, but now I think Sula was the one that I found that was easiest to understand. And then you read it, and then you read it again, and you're like, okay, you get this. So you read it the first time for a baseline understanding. You read it the second time for nuance. I could do that with Sula. I think I could do that if memory serves. It's been a very long time since I've read those books with The Bluest Eye. But oh my goodness gracious, King! Some of the stuff. I was like, oh my goodness. My teacher picked that book, and yeah, it was like first of all, I don't think I'm going to be able to get 10 pages out of this because I don't have 10 pages of understanding on this, and I am one of the wordiest people I know.
Right.
Jesus. It's weird.
She's her and I'm a Steinbeck fan. John Steinbeck. I'm a snob. I like the classics. I like a Mice and Men.
I just reread East of Eden not too long ago.
So how'd you like that?
I've read it before. I love that book.
Right. So, and I might have to be calling it quick here. I don't know, how long do you guys usually go?
Well, we only expected half an hour, so you can break anytime you're ready.
Yeah, I was going to say we're about to wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
Because we covered so much stuff.
We did. I forgot what we started with. But but again, and Laura, I know you read my book, my first book. I rewrote it because I thought it sucked.
You did?
Yeah, it was. I mean, so I wrote the second book, and the second book was so much better than the first one. And so there was such a disparity in as far as quality and content and storyline and plot that it looked like it was written by 2 different authors. And it basically was, because the first novel was like my training ground is then you put it out in the world, then you get feedback, and then you work on your craft, and then you get more feedback, and then you work on your craft. And I had a chance to interact with some really good writers that gave me some fine key points. And then after you write a book and then you start reading books, you I think you retain more, right? And so I wrote the first one, and don't get me wrong, I thought the first one was like a 3-star. I mean, I'm being honest, right?
Okay.
And then I wrote the second one. I thought the second one was like a 4.5 on a 5-star. I'm not gonna give it a 5-star. I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is like, for me, right? This is a pretty good book for as far as my level of writing. And I was like, it was so much better than the first one. I couldn't even publish it. I was like, I'm gonna put this on the shelf until I rewrite the first one. So there's some consistency, right?
I wondered why it took you so. I was like, dude, I put out like 2 books in the meantime, and you hadn't put out the second one. I was like, well, maybe he stopped. Like, I figured, like, you had, like, I know family things get in the way, and because you have a full-time life in addition to this part-time life, it makes things complicated. Like, I don't have kids, so So
basically, I've written like 4 books, but there's only 2 of them out there. It's what it amounts to, right? I mean, because so then I went back and I rewrote the first one. Right, and then
so now I have to go back and read it because you're bad as moderate.
Yeah, I mean, it's my and so now there comes a point where you have to put the paintbrush down before you make a mess, right? Yeah. And so I put the paintbrush down for books 1 and 2. I mean, I still think book 2 is better because I was a better writer when I started writing it than having to go back and refix a bunch of stuff.
But book 2 can be, you get much faster, and this is what I noticed with my first book and my second and the third book, and
right.
was the first book had so much ground laying that you needed to do. You had to introduce the character and the worlds and the universe they live in and all this other stuff. When you get to book 2, all that's done. So you just jump straight into
and people know the characters, so you don't have to cover as much backstory. So
exactly, because I kept trying to figure out why my books were getting shorter and shorter, but the amount of ground I had to cover was less and less. I could get straight into the meat of the story. I didn't have to go through, and I'm a better writer, so I don't need as many words to tell.
You get so much better at writing. You get so much more efficient.
Yeah.
You get so much better at showing, not telling. And so I rewrote book 1. I had a bunch of I rewrote with a bunch of shows. And all the chapters are pretty much the same. I chopped it up. I think it was like 12 chapters. I got like 23 chapters now. You know, the word count is the same, but my chapter was just going on and on and on without a point. I was like, this one chapter is like 3 chapters. I mean, I'm trying to do 3 different things here. So I okay. So now I have to go back so I need to reread book 1 before I read book 2. I mean, if you can, you can if you want. I don't buy it. I give you some free copies. Don't buy it, and if you want to reread it, it's a better book than when you read it the first time. But book 2 is still better. I mean, I got props from book 2 from like some real writers. I was like, dude, you've come a long way. It's nicest thing as a writer is going to tell you, right?
Yeah, I had someone tell me that about something I wrote, and I was like, okay. I like a backhanded compliment as much as anyone.
Right. He pretty much like, hey, this one doesn't suck. That's pretty much what he said.
And at that point, you're kind of like, well, yay?
Yeah. Thank you.
I was going for not sucking.
Yeah, that's my high watermark. Don't suck. That's what my mother told me.
That's all I got for you. Is I'm you know, and they understand, and it's, you know, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. It's like, because see, now something that Monterey told me was, if you have to go back and fix something, go back and fix something. But once it's done, let it live.
Yeah.
Just because I kept saying, I was like, okay, the trilogy is done. I want to go and there are things I wish I'd set up in book 1 that I had known about in book 2 and book 3. So I could have fixed. So I wanted to go back and fix, and she was like, just leave it. Just leave it. Tell that piece in another story. Don't go back, because you'll be constantly fixing stuff.
Right. You got to put the paintbrush
and not move on. Yeah. So the trilogy is done, and if I ever revisit that world, I will go back and fix some of those things kind of post mortem. But I'm just gonna let them live.
Okay.
They're out there now. So.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on. This has been a fascinating conversation. I think this is as woke as this podcast has ever been.
Right.
This has been the most what?
Woke.
Okay. Yeah.
We are generally not a woke podcast, but this was pretty woke. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah. So
hey, well,
but yeah,
I hope you guys enjoy it. I enjoy being on. Anytime you guys want to have me back, I appreciate it. And I'll be listening for a future podcast. This was fun.
Yes. Tell the people how to find you and find your books.
Oh, okay. Again, this is Thelonious Legend, blogger, provocateur, YA novelist. You can find me on Amazon. For my book, search Parker Sisters. They're the black ones. My blog is thelonious.blogspot.com, and Twitter, TheLegend Books. Get at me.
Cool. Yes. And as always, you can reach us. You can reach me at The Valkyrie on Twitter. You can reach Lolo at Lohendry, or you can just talk to us in general at Drunko Podcast. And you can hit us up on the Gmails at drunkonpodcast, drunkobooks@gmail.com. I always mess that up. And
no, you had it right the first time. The we're gonna have a new email address if I ever get my life together, but it's drunkonpodcast@gmail and drunkonbooks.com.
That's right. One day I'll have the shit in front of me and actually be prepared. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time.
So, Elise, don't hang up. I have one quick question for you.
Oh, he hung up.
Oh, I think he hung up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he did.